Hi there, it's another episode of Guest Safety Officer, and we're here today with my good friend Gary, and we're going to be looking at the way the courts treat door supervisors when they've been attacked and injured by a member of the public. Gary, first of all, sorry mate, how are you?
Oh, good, Ian. How are you doing? It's good to see you again. Haven't seen you since Tuesday morning, early
Yeah,
hours.
indeed, Tuesday morning. Nice cup of tea and coffee, by the way. Frothy coffee if you ever go to Gary's. But it's a long way, to be honest. Anyway, back to reality. This case, Gary, what interested you about it in terms of it happened in, where was it?
I think we talked about the case where the door supervisor had his jaw broken in Leeds. I think it was
He
Leeds.
Leeds, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. So he's had his jaw broken, etc. And what is it he got?
Well, I think from remembering what I was reading, he said the door supervisor received a fractured skull, fractured eye socket, and a broken cheekbone from a haymaker. What the incident? Him and his colleague were moving a customer out from the venue. As far as I'm aware, it was going smoothly until they both slipped over. The customer then fell on top of the door supervisor, got up, and then just threw this haymaker, resulting in the door supervisor injuries. It went to court, and I believe the person who threw the haymaker got a 9-month suspended sentence and had to do 200 hours of unpaid work. But
sorry,
yeah,
I just wanted to. They were moving him out, wasn't that? Weren't they moving him out? That were moving this guy out, wasn't it? Because he was making a group of women who were out celebrating feel very uncomfortable.
Well, again, that's walking back to our vulnerable people thing. So yeah, they'd already, I believe they warned him once. This was the second time they warned him, and at that point, they chose to remove him because obviously the females felt uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, and he's obviously not made any kind of apologies that would help to calm the situation, which is what normally happens in these situations, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
But the wider sort of remit, going, of course, is this isn't a one-off, is it? I mean, 9 months suspended sentence for a fractured jaw, fractured cheek, fractured eye socket. You're not going to be going to work anytime soon after that,
well,
will you?
Well, put it this way, depending on the person, I mean, you know, with those sort of injuries, you can't really work. I mean, let's face it.
As a door super, you're not going to be back on a door, are you?
Yeah, but not only that, you're not only impacting on the door supervisor's wages on that point, but also what about his mental health? You know, what about him as a person? You know, if he's not an experienced, as I say, I mean, in my old day, you know, you had to be a sort of a hardcore fighter to work on any doors. You had to be strong, you had to be tough. You know, it wasn't just a case of getting a badge. You had to prove yourself. So if these guys aren't doing any sort of training, martial arts training or physical training, to receive a beating like that, you know, that could be detrimental in anybody's mental health.
Yeah, definitely. But it's not an isolated incident, is it?
Not at all. I mean, you got to look at any papers or anything, local papers, bits and pieces. Door supervisors are being assaulted every week, you know, and a majority of the time they're just doing their jobs like anything else. I mean, I can give you a case of a few weeks ago where we were ejecting, or my staff were ejecting a person when they were trying to do, again, a similar sort of thing, a vulnerable female. They ejected the male out into the streets. I was then talking to the male, and his friend comes up and punches me straight in the face and then runs. And that's just, you know, and then runs. But this is happening every week to staff, you know, and door supervisors, male and female, or whatever, every week for no apparent reason, or for apparent reasons, for people's reasons. Let's put it that way. They feel they have a right to abuse door supervisors.
Yeah, there's a reason. I just want to touch on this figure, you know, about the level of violence. Research, academic research, not research conducted by Ian and his mates, you know, but actual proper research. And Perkins was the guy, showed that most store supervisors will be physically attacked. 94%, I think, will be attacked during the course of a year when they're working. They will receive verbal abuse as a basic standard part of their normal daily operation. Now, and this brings us to a quite interesting sort of is if these injuries or all these attacks or near misses were reported correctly. Do you remember the broadcast we did a couple of weeks ago with Travell Henry?
Yes.
Yeah, about near misses, the recording of. It would have a massive impact on the venue, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, put it this way, venues or venue owners or venue operators, whichever way you want to class them, they don't want things reported to the police. And the reason why this is because it puts black marks against them every time. They don't need any more black marks. They want to do it their tens in. They want to be able to make their money. They want to stay opening. And when they have a license review, they don't need to coming up to those. Well, your door stoppers put a complaint here. They put a complaint there. They put an accusation here. They don't want to put that in, do they?
Well, no, and it's just stepping back from that. If you were properly recording all of these incidents and they were put down as near misses, whatever, you know, and people often forget that verbal violence is classed as a near miss, etc. So if these were all put down on a proper claim form, and then the insurance companies will look at that and say, hey, what incidents have you had this year? And the company will say, oh, we've had all of these. So they've done the job. The venue's done the job. They've reported everything. They've complied with health and safety guidance. They've done everything they can, and they're punished for it because their insurance is going to go straight up.
Absolutely. And also, what you look at is licensing as well. I mean, licensing, I've dealt with not only licensing authorities and licensing polices. They want everything reported. They want everything clear cut. This happened, that happened, that happened. Yeah. But then straight away, as soon as you come to licensing review, they turn that against you and say, well, you had this there, you had that here. Again, it's a catch-22. And then one of the greatest things for licensing, what licensing police like to do, is their first line of call is get rid of the security company.
Yeah.
Or get rid of the DPS. Get rid of them straight away. DPS, sorry.
There's a couple of things that I'll come to on that, and remind me, Mr. Partridge, Frank Partridge in London, is currently facing accusations of all sorts. He was a licensing policeman responsible for the West End in London. Very, very interesting story, and it will definitely be worthwhile seeing the outcome of the case. But there are massive bribery and corruption charges going in there. And I'd love to say that I've never heard anything like that before, but of course I have. Around all sorts of around the UK, this is not an isolated incident, nor, and I must clarify straight away, nor is it endemic. It's like every organization, police, NHS, wherever, there are always going to be bad apples, and they will take advantage of the system. But I just wanted to sort of touch on the licensing authorities and the police coming to them. A friend of mine was running a nightclub, and he was hauled. He was hauled before the licensing committee, and the police didn't want him to open. And he said, okay. And they were asked, why is it that you don't want, this nightclub to open? Well, they've had a 300% increase in crimes of violence over the last 12 months. All right. Okay, well, that's terrible, terrible, said the judge, or, the licensing authority. Can you explain this? Well, he said, I can. It can't be me. And he says, why? He says, I haven't been open. And this is true. He hadn't been open for a year because he'd been closed down and he was refurbishing. The actual incidents that had occurred outside his premises were from customers who'd left premises elsewhere. And yet he was being lumped in with these, being held responsible and being able to do something when the lights weren't even on. And that might be an extreme example, but it is something that occurs. And you can't blame the police. I mean, who wants to do anything? What are the police going to do if they catch someone? In reality,
I mean, that goes back to our original thing about the doorman who got sorted. I mean, obviously they've done something there, but let's look at the reality of this. I mean, this has happened well over the years. What's the chances of the police actually turning up at the venue as well?
Right.
And we do a lot of work in London. London is a busy place. 12 million people. Nightclubs, bars, nighttime economy is running continuously. Even we know about an ambulance. An ambulance will not turn up for anything for hours. It's the same with the police. So it's have the police got time to deal with door supervisors? And they must get hundreds of complaints each weekend about a door supervisor. But the greatest thing is, well, not the greatest thing is when the door supervisors phone the police, they still don't get a response. And this is, I mean, I haven't got figures. I'm only speaking from experience on this. You're trying to phone the police to try and get through to the police, which is a shame. Their call centres are very busy, and I appreciate they are busy. But again, this poor lad who's in Leeds, I don't know how long response time was in for him, or whether they did turn up. They must have turned up at some point because the gentleman's been arrested. But the fact is, how many times they don't turn up for us, and we're out on the ground and we're on our own.
It's incredibly difficult. I mean, there was some work done by Professor Shepherd from Cardiff University, I think, and he did quite a lot of work in denoting where hotspots in the nighttime economy occur. And so, the guy knows what he's doing, etc., etc. And I did some work with a colleague of his, and it's phenomenal, the figures that you see when you think there was something like in Cardiff where the research took place. I think there were about 30,000 nights, hours, and in that, or 30,000 interactions, and in that there were only about 0.006 of offences that were dealt with by, where door supervisors were eventually found to have been out, of operating outside their remit. And this, you think about that, it's 0.006, it's into the tens of thousands, because door supervisors and guest safety officers, they have billions of interactions over the course of a year. So when you think that one or two customers cause a problem, normally repeat offenders, by the way, it's difficult. Chief Constable John Stoddard, when he was head of the alcohol and homicide division for ACPO, as it was then, he gave a lecture and a talk at a national pub watch conference where he said that yes, 23,000 crimes or more are committed on a Friday and Saturday night. Friday and Saturday night, 23,000 crimes every single week, the size of a small town. How do you cope What do you think? There's only 80,000 police officers currently in the country. What are they going to do?
Well, again, it's as guest safety officers, door supervisors, we are the front line. We are. I mean, you look at it in the way we are the fourth emergency service, whether you like it or not. And the thing about it is, I don't think we are actually seen that by the SIA. I don't think we're seen it taken seriously enough by the police officers. Some do, but I think as a whole organisation, they see us more as a hindrance. And every time I've come across police working in with SAG meetings or big things, they always have they look down on your approach.
What's the SAG? Can you just explain it for those that might not know?
Well, a SAG meeting, I usually do festivals and bits and pieces. These are meetings
with safety advisory
groups and bits and pieces. So they're meetings which take place during an event or before the event which take place and after the event as well.
Yeah, is one of the things that I notice interesting, because it's who you speak to. I have dealt with so many police officers over the years who are exemplary in their approach and desire to get people sorted and off the street. There is no doubt that they are brilliant. The difficulties start to appear and the cracks start to appear at the weekends in particular, where the people where the officers who come up may be from out of town. It's they're shipped in to cover the shift, do the shift. It's their turn, but however their rotas work. And that's when you tend to find more problems. With regards to how door supervisors are, guest safety officers are treated, I remember we've been at a National Door Watch, because that's what I used to do. I used to run that at one stage. I was the chairman of that. So I was at a meeting in Nottingham, I think it was, with National Door Watch, and we had Bill Butler, who was the SIA chief executive then, and we had somebody from the police, from the local police that was there, and they were asked, well, how can we help? And the door supervisor said, well, what would be nice is when you come, please remember that we're there. We are sober. We haven't been drinking. And yet you come over and the first person you speak to is the drunk, the loudmouth drunk, and ignore us when we're the trained professionals. It says it doesn't make us feel good. There's so many examples of that nature.
It's again, this is all falls down on the police service, which area you're in, and the police officers who attend. But it's time and time again is they review us as guilty before anything else. They don't look at you and go, oh, they're a genuine company or these are trained professionals. It's I feel, and this is in my opinion, only my opinion, that dealing with certain police officers or certain organisations, you're guilty till proven innocent.
There is certainly there's a perception and an element of that, and it's understandable why that.
Yeah, absolutely
has arisen.
I mean, if we go back to the old days, I mean, you say I've been in the business industry for 37 years. The old days, just that bouncers were there to bounce. That's what they were paid to do. They were paid very good money to bounce people out, and they did exactly that. But those times have changed, but the attitudes haven't really changed, and that goes even looking at the papers. You'll see in the Sun newspaper, the bouncer done this, they keep forgetting what we really are. I like your term, the guest safety officer. That's what we're there. We're there to look after people. We're there to make sure everyone has a good time, everyone is safe, and everyone gets home safely. That's what our job is. We're not there to bounce out anymore. Those things, that's why the SA was brought in, to change the perception and to paint us with that still same brush, the bouncer. Is why police services, certain police services, and certain organisations still throw this bouncer mentality on us.
Yeah, and it's a terrible thing, and it's very simple. Using the term bouncer is used to dehumanize us.
That's right.
So if we dehumanize the door supervisor, and and I would say that you look at the way they call the police, pigs, filth, that's all about dehumanizing, so that if you do something wrong, you can turn around and say, oh, it was them, it wasn't me. You know what them bouncers are like, you know what them pigs are like, the filth, they're always ruining everything for everybody. I was innocent, Your Honor. Yeah, that is what they're. You can't change that, apparently. Well, I think you can, and that is one of the things that I think the guest safety officer lobby group really needs to be working towards. People who call themselves bouncers, I worry about, to be honest. Anybody who says, oh yeah, mate, I'm a bouncer, yeah, I'm seriously concerned about, certainly wouldn't want them on my door or working for me.
I fully agree with you, because at the end of the day, we are not bouncers. We're there to look after everybody. We're there for the incidents. We're there if something goes wrong, the terrorist attack. You've only got to look at, when the London, what was it called? It was London Market, wherever it was, where the terrorist attack took place.
Markets, yeah.
Yeah, Borough Markets, there we are, Borough Markets. The venue safety officers there, boom, what they do? They closed the doors. They made sure everyone stayed inside and was safe. They were bouncing people out. They were doing their job. They were
keeping people in.
Yeah, and they were keeping people in, and they were protecting the public. And that's, the SIA throw this word out, we're protecting the public. We do protect the public. We are not bouncers. The days of the bouncer is over. And, going back to our original thing with the young man who was assaulted, they assaulted the bouncer. That guy's probably going around going, yeah, I smashed the bouncer up. Great. That's brilliant.
There's this whole thing. I remember there was I'm not sure in which paper, whether it was the Mail or the Sun or whatever, but it was there was a headline of bouncer found dead. And on one of the pages, you think, oh, blimey, what was that? What on earth happened there? And it turned out she was a young 24-year-old woman who'd died in her sleep, who happened to work as a bouncer, as far as they're concerned, as well. She wasn't a bouncer. She hadn't been, she was in bed, for God's sake. What do you want? And this is the problem, because it's all about clickbait, getting headlines, and not actually making evidenced and reasoned arguments. It's far too simple to get things, to get a headline that people go for, and it's always on the emotional response. I just want to touch, because I'm conscious of where we are and the time that we've got, Gary, is I also got to say, I feel so sorry for the police. I really do. And the reason I feel sorry for them, because I've seen it time and time again. The ones that do the job, they come, they arrest, and what happens? They spend hours and hours. They have to get, they come and fetch the person, they arrest them, they take them back, they process them, they then have to go through further hours, potentially days of collating evidence. They pass it on to the CPS, who turn around and say, unless it's a cause célèbre, yeah, you're not going to get much joy out of them. But they'll say, well, give them, what do they call, a caution, yeah. And if they turn around and say, I don't want a caution, you then got to take them to court, and courts cost money. Which brings me to, I'll tell you what cautions, what it's like. The National Pub Watch thing, Steve Baker and others put together a brilliant campaign called Court Not Caution, as in CO, as in the court, not CAUGHT. But they were asking that the courts started to treat people with and make people responsible for the crimes that they committed. Now, this campaign was started on the back of a licensee who was glassed with an ashtray, yeah, and she wound up getting a caution. The caution wasn't issued by the police per se. It was pointless. It was pointless going any further because there was too many he said, she said arguments. And what could people do? Not a lot. It's incredibly frustrating. So the guys that are also out there, they don't help themselves, but they have absolutely no incentive to do anything. What's the point? So yeah, we're going to come and help you, Gary, on this. You know, tonight you've been punched in the face. We lift them, we do all the work, and then what happens? You know, the person that you gets off. How can that be right? And how can that be good for a policeman's morale?
It's not good for anybody's morale. The police morale, the door supervisor or guest safety officer's morale. You know, at the end of the day, we should all be working together as a unit. And I think the point of this whole conversation you're having today is really, you know, we need to work a lot more closely with the police, and the police need to recognise us a lot more for what we are, and we're not just, you know, hired hands. You know, we're not just, let's leave the words, bouncers.
Not anymore.
We are professionals. You know, I've only got to take with the people I work with, and some of them are FREC 3, FREC 4. You know, they've got qualifications under their names. They're out there doing their flipping wave training, their vulnerable people training. There is so much more, you know, and it's working so hard to try and get it right continuously. And there's not just people I work with, there's many companies out there doing it, and they're trying to make the professional thing and make it right. So you know, it would be nice if we could bring that closeness together with the local police services. And just on that note, I mean, going back to this gentleman was assaulted, there was a petition which was going around last year, and the petition was treat security officers as emergency workers in events of assaults. Now, allegedly, we've got 400,000 license holders.
Yeah.
From the SIA, you know, SIA quotes. I believe that only reached about 4,000 signed signatures. 4,000 out of 400,000. I haven't got the exact figure what it was, but I reckon it was coming up to 4,000 last time I checked. How does that work out? And that sort of shows our industry in a percentage of, if the people in the industry aren't caring, then everyone outside the industry are not going to care for us.
Oh, absolutely. You look at that, and you know, the article that I wrote the other day, the post that and it was that those that run and operate and work in the nighttime economy, at festivals, all of the events, hospitality and leisure sector, including retail, saying that we run a crash. We deal with people. We're not running a crash. You know, it's not a kindergarten. People don't come there. They come out at night, specifically, or to festivals to go and enjoy themselves.
Right.
And we, or the industry, is there to help facilitate that. Every single one of them, whether you're an owner or you know, or you are the person on a gate, you know, in a festival somewhere watching seagulls and only listening to the music. That's what we do. We're there to bring joy, not misery. And if we all work together within that, and that's where I think Michael Kill and the NTIA do a good job. They are trying to bring everybody together, but we need to go a little bit further. That would be my thing, because if we what is it? A tide lifts all boats. A rising tide lifts all boats, and we've all got to lift and rise together. But anyway, that's you know, sort of an interesting bit. I'd love to pick up. I'm going to try and find us a lawyer. That'll be good. You know, a health and safety lawyer in particular. I think that would be great, because I really do want to understand a lot more about health and safety guidance and how that impacts on us. Because you know, the reason I'm here, the reason this started for me is because of what happened at the Manchester Arena inquiry and the fact that 2 18-year-old lads wind up named and blamed for something out of there.
Named, blamed, and shamed. I think that's what we can say.
I think shamed is I wouldn't say shamed, but the only reason I wouldn't say shamed is because the industry knows.
That's right.
Truth is, the unfortunate thing is if anybody comes out and says anything, other than people like me who've got nothing to lose and isn't going to liable anybody, they have to be very careful. And I get that. But somebody's got to start saying something, because people, I think, need to be responsible for their own actions, first and foremost, when they go out of a night. I mean, what do you think, Gary? Do you ever have queues, for instance?
Oh, of course, you have queues. Most venues we work in, most festivals, always queues. Very rarely you do not get in a queue. It's an English thing, that we like to queue.
Well, we do and we don't. But if any of those, I mean, I've worked at venues where the queue's been down the street and down the block, but people queue normally. Yeah. So, however, if that queue decided at any point in time that they were going to not queue anymore, there are never going to be enough people there to prevent anything going on.
That goes to our last conversation with Professor Keith Still.
Yeah, Professor Keith Still. What a marvellous man he was.
Is.
Still, well, yes, he's still, yes, he's not. Well, say Gary, he's not dead, is he? Sorry, Keith, if you've taken the time to watch this. Just to let you know, I think we're going to have to call it a day at this particular point now, because there's so much. Please, people, if you disagree, if you think there's anything that Gary and I have missed, I've missed, whatever, we're talking rubbish, please let us know, because we want to try and make things better for you out there. Can't do that unless we get told what's going on. We've got some really interesting things coming up. I'm going to be interviewing Ronnie McGeekin from the SIA. He's head of compliance and enforcement. And lo and behold, be interesting to see what he's got to do and say, because I think if we get it right with the SIA, things could be really good after the protect duty comes in. But we'll have to wait and see. Gary, your final thoughts?
Well, just to say, finalise what you said. I mean, over the whole, looking at what we spoke about today, is the poor officer who was assaulted. The person got nine months suspended sentence. Great. During the police service, we'd like them to see them help us out more. The SIA, we'd like them to see us help out a lot more, and we'd like to be taken more serious and lose this word, the bouncer. The bouncer word, it's old-fashioned. So if we can start working on that and then moving forward, to make this industry far more professional, these are the steps we need to be taking now.
But just to say old-fashioned, the term bouncer was, I think it was coined in a book or in a pamphlet written in the USA in about 1854. I think that's the time. I've got the details somewhere. It's 200 years out of date, mate. Sort yourselves out, get yourselves an iPad, or whatever, and move on.
Absolutely.
Hope Apple are going to sponsor us now that I've mentioned that. We aren't funded, by the way, just so that you all know. We need money, just not yet. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye, Gary.
And on your note, I'm going to bounce out here.
Oh, God, what a terrible end to the show. I'll see you later, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care, Ian. Bye.